In the meantime, the Prime Minister today is going to be busy. She's got her first cabinet meeting, or the last cabinet meeting, isn't it, before recess, up in the north of England. What's the motivation, do we think, behind the location for this one, then? She's about to talk about the investment up in the north.
So, from my time as a government advisor, whenever the government felt that the heat was on them in terms of ignoring faraway regions,
like Newcastle, that far distant place.
What the government would always do is, oh, we'll have a cabinet away day in that place to show them that we really care, and we'll roll out a couple of juicy announcements.
So that's to say, we've not forgotten you. You're
exactly.
Important too.
And Newcastle and the North East is very germane to the Brexit argument, because, like Sunderland and a huge and big part of the North East voted to leave, and there's a lot of manufacturing jobs that could be affected by a particularly sort of hard Brexit.
But the centre of Newcastle was largely Remain, so it kind of epitomises a split that we see everywhere.
Absolutely, and certainly some of the MPs up there sort of tell me that some of their constituents, quite a lot of their constituents, are now having sort of buyer's remorse about having voted leave, because they are starting to feel concerned about what the impact will be on their jobs. A lot of manufacturing jobs, but a lot of small business connected to the supply chain of those big manufacturing jobs as well. Also, people's holidays are becoming more expensive, and all these things are making people think, well, actually... And as you say, that kind of captures the national mood, which is very divided and confused and worried about Brexit.
Well, two headlines on the front page of the paper today. Doug Gurr, the UK manager for Amazon, says civil unrest if there's no deal for Brexit. He's predicting absolute chaos, or he's flagging up the potential for it anyway. And on the eye, it might mean that we have no checks on food safety if we end up with no deal, because we wouldn't be able to operate under EU rules or operate under American rules. We wouldn't know where we were. So they would have to, you know, change some of the controls we have on imports in order to make it work.
This strikes me as Project Fear Mark II. I mean, we had all this during the referendum 2 years ago, that there'd be an instant and immediate crash in the economy, a massive emergency budget would be required, none of which has happened. OK, things are a bit rocky because there's lots of uncertainty about Brexit.
We haven't left yet, David.
No, we haven't left, but they said it would be instantaneous, and they did launch a massive government-backed campaign to keep us in, which didn't convince people. And what's happening now is we're getting the same thing all over again. I mean, the planes will fly. I mean, can you imagine?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, Dominic Grieve has been warning yesterday, hadn't he, about, you know, planes not flying, shortages of food, shortages of medicine. You know, is that a fair thing to do? Is it scaremongering, or is it actually saying this could be the consequences of no deal?
It's prudent planning. I've been speaking to a lot of businesses, particularly like civil aviation and things like that, and what people are saying is, look, eventually, if we crash out with no deal, eventually, of course, we'll sort things out. But there could well be an immediate period of time where it is chaos. Yeah.
Well, medicine
then the European planes won't be able to fly over the UK.
They won't be able to get to the US then, will they? That would mean that
we control most of the airspace.
Chunk of flights would just grind to a halt.
And also, one of the things that's very hard for businesses, right, whatever Brexit happens, they don't have skin in... They will accept whatever political decision. They need to know. They need certainty. They need to know what's happening about these standards. They need to know what's happening about their staff and their workforce. They just need to know what's happened. And the problem with a no-deal Brexit is that could come at the 11th hour. Then you crash out, and there could be bedlam and chaos for a short period of time, admittedly. But why put ourselves through that?
I think the language from that section is quite inflammatory. To say that there would be riots on the streets if we had crashed out is way over the top. You don't hear the other side, for instance, saying if we don't deliver Brexit, there would be riots on the streets.
I think that's...
Well, no,
I've heard people say if you have a second referendum, there'll be riots on the street. And don't forget, a lot of the claims in the Leave campaign were just not true. Like that poster Nigel Farage put of all the Turkish men that are apparently going to come and invade our country. Oh, Turkey isn't actually joining the EU.
But so Dominic Raab, when he was speaking yesterday, he talked about the fact that, you know, that his priority was making sure that there was the right deal, but they did have the contingency plans in place for no deal if that was to happen, but that wasn't the focus of his priority at the moment.
But look, the government itself has announced that 70 warning notices are going out to different areas of public and commercial life preparing for a no deal. So the government itself, and I think it's right to do that, it is the right thing. Remember, the problem that Theresa May has, even if she sells her Chequers deal to the public, it only takes one or two hardline Brexiteers on the Conservative side to say, we're not happy with this. They could torpedo the whole thing, and that's how we could have a no-deal Brexit.